Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Small Town Music. I know it has been longer than a minute since we've had an episode, and Laura is not here today because she is on family vacation in Arizona. And Smelly Cat is obviously very excited to join everybody again. So we have had a pretty crazy kind of winter time, that third 9 weeks time, because we stopped kind of right before Thanksgiving and Christmas. So we had holidays and I had the flu. And then there were things going on over Christmas. And then basketball season hit pretty hard for me personally. I know she was doing some different stuff and we were both just really focusing on other things. And also, if you can't tell, if you're watching the video, I am pregnant with twins. So that has also taken up a lot of my time and energy mentally these last few months. So, but we're excited to start making episodes again. One thing I do want to say before I kind of get into today's episode and information is that we would love to hear some feedback. I know that there are people listening. I can see in the analytics every week that we have listeners. We have people watching on YouTube. Please comment, tell us what you like about it. Tell us what you would like to see or hear more of, or topics that you specifically want to discuss about teaching music, especially in a small school, or just teaching in general. That's why we're here. We don't just want to talk. We want to know that you are out there and you are getting the information that you need too. Also, it helps boost our channel and our podcast if you do comment, rate, all those good things. And it helps us to know what you actually need and what you need from us. Also, we do have a just forgot the name of it, a Patreon. If you feel inclined, you want to give us a little bit of money. Obviously this microphone does what it can, but it's not the best recording equipment that we could have, and we know that we can do better, but we need some money to do that. So if you feel led to donate, even $5, that would be really helpful, and we would really appreciate your support. All right. So moving on from that, today's topic, I'm kind of talking about when and how do you kind of look forward to the next school year, how to start planning for the next school year, and when do you start kind of doing that. And I honestly, in my own way, I start planning for the next school year already in August. Day one of school, there are things that I either mentally or physically take note that I didn't like how I did that, or I didn't like how that certain activity or meeting or anything like that, how it turned out. So I will often try to take a note all year long about things that I didn't like, or ideas that I kind of try to have that, this would be great to add to our spring concert next year instead of doing it this way. Or, don't forget, I always forget donation baskets for people who want to just donate money to the band. I literally never do that because I always constantly forget about it. So that's one small thing that I do throughout the school year. But I think spring break time is a really good to start, if not physically planning, then mentally. I know, spring cleaning time. But for me, the piles have crept up on my desk. We've gone through basketball season. We have our county band festival. We've gone through at least middle school ISMA contest. We're getting ready to do high school ISMA. And getting into spring concerts. So things are never slow per se. However, there's just my brain can allocate different space for different things. So I start to physically kind of clean out the piles on my desk or things that I've just shoved in drawers that I can kind of okay, the Christmas wrapping paper that I didn't use for the door decorating thing, okay, we can, put that away. Or all the instruments that I've just kind of piled up in a empty locker, I can now maybe take the time to start looking at those and and kind of clearing them away and getting things ready for next year. This year, that's a very different journey for me, as I am preparing for going on maternity leave in August. And so it's a very different feeling of how I want to prepare for next year and how I want to prepare this person to kind of take over my program for about the whole school year. So that's just a very interesting thing that I've worked through. If you want more like pregnancy specific related teacher content, I'm more than happy to share my current experience, which I know Laura can talk about her experience when she was pregnant with both of her children. Obviously I'm carrying two, so that's a little bit different as well. But yeah, so it's been very different for me personally this year than it would be in years past. I would kind of wait until May, especially the heavy lifting. I can't really do much heavy lifting right now. However, that would still be, I might take a minute or two to physically move equipment, clean up piles. I've kind of been doing that if I feel like I have a minute where I can. Take a second to clear things out, go through some papers, move some instruments so my room looks a little cleaner, reorganize things so that it makes more sense or just looks neater, then I'll try to do that. Right now we have all of our old uniforms. We have about 100 jackets and 100 pairs of pants and 90 hats and hat boxes that we are looking to get rid of and get out, which would be a really great space saver for us, and that would be super helpful to be able to have that. But so there's a lot of physical things that I try to get ready for. And I say, start whenever you feel comfortable. Like if it is, you want to take time during your spring break and start even just a rough sketch of like an outline of next year, kind of what you want to do. I find it really, if I'm in a really frustrating moment and at school and I have a minute where nothing is pressing, nothing is immediate, but I do need to feel like I need to get some work done rather than just sit around and play on my phone for 40 minutes during my prep time, I will try and just listen to concert band music to get ready for next year. I think the more I teach, the more I know how my students are going to be able to play music and how they're going to react to it. And so I can start choosing music that I will want them to play for the next year. Whether we play all of it or not it just depends. Sometimes they surprise me. We can do harder music. Sometimes they surprise me in the other way that, okay, we need to find something different to work to their strengths. So I think that's helpful to just, even if you go through, hopefully your music library is in a digital file or some kind of filing system that you are able to look through it all and really see all the music and who composed it. And then I go on jwpepper.com or even on YouTube and listen to the music. I'll try to pull out scores to ones that I find interesting, but I'll just look through. A shout out to the previous director at Bloomfield. She did a really, really great job making sure that the music was really well organized. So she even put, if it's junior high, if it's grade 1, grade 2, middle school, high school, things like that. And that's all very subjective to what your students need, which I think we've talked about that before. Just if your instrument sections, you've got some killer woodwinds, but your brass are kind of slacking a little bit and cannot play up to the same level as your woodwinds, then don't pick music that really features your brass. However, it's a little tricky because I've found that if the music has really, really awesome brass parts, the woodwind parts are going to be harder. So that's also tricky because right now my trombones and baritones in high school are really awesome, but my other instruments maybe are not exactly at the same level. They're not bad. They're just not quite at the same level that they're able to play. So that's just an interesting challenge when you're picking out music that it may say junior high, but don't just pick it up and go. If I hear music that I think could work, then I'll try to pull out scores and kind of look through like, okay, maybe this is a really good contest piece. Maybe this is a really good spring concert in May when we've worked really hard all year. So that's kind of a good starting place because there's just so much to think about and do with concerts and contests. And then of course you've got, like, we have the Halloween parade. We usually play pretty much all the same music. Pep band season, I try to get 1 or 2 new pieces. The last couple of years I've tried to do that. We just have not had time to work through those pieces like we need to, so I probably won't push to purchase any new music for Pep band. So that's kind of what I do for concert prep. For theory lesson plan prep, every year I have I start out really great the first 9 weeks of trying to do a weekly music theory lesson that kind of makes sense and follows a curriculum. And then we get into solo and ensemble, and then we get into pep band, where we had like 3 or 4 pep sessions in a row, which is great because the teams were winning. But then that meant, like, my focus was just elsewhere. And then we get into contests, and then, like, the list piles up. But do what you feel is comfortable. Even if it's 1 or 2 a month, great. Then that's just content that they're getting. If you teach some kind of general music class, like, music appreciation or music history, luckily that curriculum can pretty much stay the same year to year. That you don't have to create and find new content, because theoretically you're going to have all different kids. And that is also a really great class to be able to kind of play around with. Like, if you've just found things that work well for your kids or for you personally to be able to do, that's really helpful. I know Laura can speak on things that she'll do for her choir. I think we have kind of similar ideas probably when it comes to curriculum planning and picking music and doing all this stuff. We work on different timelines just based on when we feel like our brains can handle that responsibility of even starting to look for next year. Again, I'm starting much earlier this year than I would in years past. In years past, it'd be like usually in August, honestly, is when I really start to hit the ground running. End of July, like that last week of July, first week of August, right before school, because I need a break. And I'm going to take my break. But I think it's a good idea to at least start thinking about and doing a rough sketch, especially things are really fresh in your mind right now, especially at spring break time. If you're on spring break now, or you were on spring break, even if you're not, there's usually a lull at this time of year where you're not quite to your spring concert. You're done with basketball. You might be getting ready for contests, which is a lot, but that's just a one-day event, luckily. So you can take a minute after school or during your prep time and just, okay, the grading can wait another day. What are we going to do next year? How am I going to start this? So we ended basketball season a couple weeks ago. And that was, definitely right after it ends is not the time that I really want to start thinking about more basketball season, but that's also a great time to just kind of reflect. I am really fortunate to have someone who comes to the games with me and who's kind of my assistant to the basketball band. He helps play trumpet. He helps take over if I'm unable to, if I'm out of town, or if I'm sick. And he does a really great job. But he is a kindergarten teacher and has just a little bit different outlook on basketball season. I am not a sports person. If you know me at all, I do not play sports. I'll watch it and it's fine. I'm not against it. It's just not my thing. But he really connects with the basketball team, and he is really able to make that connection with the players. He loves going to the basketball game, so he's a really great person to kind of bounce ideas off of. Even if you don't have someone who's like an assistant like that, anyone who kind of makes a really good connection with the basketball team, that would be a good person to just talk to about, like, hey, you heard the pep band, like, what are some ideas to get kids more involved in games? Like, I personally have trouble having kids show up, and it's gotten to the point, like, it has to be required. Like, the requirement is going to have to come back. For a lot of reasons, we took it away, and we thought it was going to work out. But my pep band has now become 8th graders, and my 8th graders are rock stars. However, like, it's it's for the varsity basketball team. Like that's a whole nother rant. But anyway, so we were on the bus ride home from the last game that we lost because we go to all the tournament games, and he was like, hey, what about this for next year? I want to do this. I want to try this. I was like, yeah, those are all really awesome things that I never would have thought of because I don't really talk to the basketball players. I don't, like, let's be honest, I go to the games because I have to, not because I really, really want to spend my evening and weekends and nights at these basketball games. But just anyone that you can bounce ideas, even if it's another director in your area. So I know that basketball is an incredibly important thing at my school. Like, it is not going away unless something like really crazy happens. If we get, I don't know what would have to happen. Like, the whole town is entirely invested in these basketball games, which is just a really unique thing about Bloomfield and not something that I grew up with. So I think, finding that niche, and then you got to lean into it. And that's kind of where I've realized at this point, like, I either need to give it up entirely, like give up the basketball games to someone who's going to do a much better job, or just really lean into it and go with it and hit the ground running next year. So this year we did something I've never done before. At the end of the season, we did like a celebration breakfast for all of the pet band or ROTC people. They do, they're always there for the national anthem. The Redliners are at every home game to perform. So we ended up doing a breakfast for them, and I think that was really something that they really enjoyed, that they were able to be a part of. I know our basketball team and cheerleaders, they often will have breakfast. They'll have, the basketball team especially, I can't exactly speak to the cheerleaders, but they'll get goodie bags during sectionals. They'll get, treats at lunch. They'll get special dinners, which, again, they are the team. They are winning the games, and I understand that. But it's also nice to recognize the people that support the team and are at every game, too. And I know they appreciated that. So that's just a really fun, like, team-building activity that you can do. I had parents donate all the food, which was really helpful. I did make all the pancakes, but it was still really fun to be able to do that and to do something good for the kids. And I appreciated that. I think they did too. As soon as you can plan, the better, because it's going to be fresh in your mind. I know there's a lot of times I'll go back in summer and start planning things, and it's very, like, I forget very easily. So my middle school, I just took them to contest. We did not do terrible. We did not do great. We got a silver, which I was talking to the kids about, and I was like, look, this is still a good, and it's still a good score. Like, no, we didn't get gold. However, we still did well. So I just kind of had the thought, I need to go back and look through those score sheets or listen to those tapes again, in January of next year when I start preparing for ISMA contest for middle school. So that I remind myself all the things that the judges have told me, because I'm noticing a pattern through the years of things that they're telling me that they are not hearing, which means as a teacher, these are the weaknesses in my teaching, that my kids can play notes and rhythms, but they don't balance and blend as well. They don't do the dynamics as well. And I know I don't spend enough time on that. So those are things that, while it's fresh in your mind, keep a note of that. Speaking of keeping notes, I kind of touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but if you keep like a physical note on your phone, that's a really easy way while you're thinking of it, like at basketball games or in the middle of class or in the middle of, I don't know, you're eating dinner and all of a sudden you just think of something that happened today and you're like, oh, I don't want to do that again. Or like, yeah, I do want to do that again. Just quickly to be able to jot down those ideas right away is really helpful. And that's not like a groundbreaking, new, exciting piece of technology. However, it can be really helpful. If you're a pen and paper kind of person, then keeping a journal or keeping a notepad can be really helpful. I really like the phone thing because then I just have it with me all the time, and then I can pull it up when I need to. And it's already on my laptop. It's already on, whatever device I'm going to be working on. So I think so we're getting to the end here. And I'm sure Laura will have some advice different on that, about what she does to plan for the next school year, how she works through that process. That was just a really big overview. So I think the next episode we might kind of dive into specific lesson planning and curriculum planning and what we kind of do for that. I think we briefly talked about it before, but I think it's always good to revisit it, especially as we change and evolve. So something that I've liked that I've been doing recently is I try to start every morning like writing down things I need to do, like physically writing down in my notebook things I need to do for the day. And then I know we have an advisory period first thing. So sometimes I'll just kind of sit and like stare at my computer like, okay, what do I need to do? And that at that point, then I'll start thinking of like literally 500 things that need to happen before the end of the school year. So that's a really good time to like go to the back of my notebook or go to a new page and just, it's called a brain dump, I think. Other people may have different names, but I call it a brain dump. And you just list every item of everything that you need to do. So every like, oh, I need to pick up music. I need to write down this. I need to sign up for the field trip. I need to, all these things like, oh, I need to do the calendar for next year. I need to do this recruiting video. So that can be really helpful to just like empty your brain from like the constant running of things. And then so you also don't forget. And that's also just helped me as I have many more things that I'm thinking about in terms of my personal life right now. And my to-do list, I have like 5 different to-do lists because, one at school and one at home and one for the kids and one for my future children and one for, all the things that I want to do before the babies come and all these things. So if you're just really feeling like your brain is filling up with ideas, that's just a great way to just kind of like let it out, and then you can reorganize and regroup later. Thank you so much for listening. We will hopefully continue to do episodes as long as we can, especially through my journey into parenthood and all of that. And please like, subscribe, rate, review, follow. Find us on Instagram, on TikTok, which we do not have very many videos. We do not post very often. We're working on it. Find us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, all the places. Just search Small Town Music and you should be able to find us. But I hope you're having a really great semester. If the new 9 weeks for you has rolled over, I hope it's off to a good start and we keep on keeping on.